The silent threat. The morning sun cast long shadows across the Nevada desert when the first signs appeared. Dr. Sarah Mitchell had been monitoring deep space radio telescopes for 17 years, but she had never seen anything like the readings flooding her screens. The signals were too organized, too precise to be natural phenomena. They formed patterns that spoke of intelligence, purpose, and something far more unsettling than she wanted to admit. Within 6 hours, every major observatory on Earth was tracking the same phenomenon. A massive fleet of ships had entered the outer edge of the solar system, moving with the calculated precision of a military formation. The vessels were enormous, each one easily the size of Manhattan, and there were hundreds of them arranged in perfect geometric patterns that defied human understanding of space combat. President Elena Rodriguez stood in the Situation Room, her hands pressed flat against the polished table as she studied the satellite images. Around her, the most brilliant minds in military strategy, science, and diplomacy struggled to comprehend what they were witnessing. The ships hung in space like predators, silent and motionless, waiting for something that made every person in the room feel like prey. "How long until they reach Earth?" Rodriguez asked, her voice steady despite the weight of 8 billion lives pressing down on her shoulders. "At their current speed, approximately 72 hours, replied Admiral Marcus Thompson, a man whose weathered face had seen 3 wars and countless battles. "But ma'am, they stopped accelerating 12 hours ago. They're just waiting." The answer came at exactly noon Eastern Time. Every television screen, radio broadcast, and internet connection on Earth simultaneously displayed the same image. A being stood before them, tall and elegant, with skin that seemed to shimmer like polished silver and eyes that held the depth of ancient stars. When it spoke, its voice carried across every language barrier, translated perfectly into every human tongue. "I am Commander Lyrelli of the Zephyrian Empire," the being announced, its words carrying an authority that seemed to press against the very air. "We have observed your species for 3 of your solar cycles. Your planet contains resources valuable to our expansion, and your species shows potential for integration into our workforce." The message continued with the cold efficiency of a business transaction. The Zephyrians had conquered 47 star systems without firing a single shot. Their method was simple and terrifyingly effective. They would arrive, demonstrate their overwhelming technological superiority, and allow the target species to surrender rather than face annihilation. Fear was their greatest weapon, and they wielded it with surgical precision. "You have 72 Earth hours to consider our terms," Commander Lyrelli continued. "Surrender unconditionally, and your people will be relocated to suitable worlds within our empire. Resist, and your planet will be converted to its most efficient use. We have never encountered meaningful resistance, and we do not expect to begin now." As the transmission ended, Rodriguez felt the eyes of her advisors turn toward her. Some showed fear, others anger, but all of them shared the same unspoken question: what could Earth possibly do against such overwhelming power? "Get me Dr. Nakamura," Rodriguez said quietly. "And seal this room. What we discuss next doesn't leave these walls." Dr. Kai Nakamura arrived within minutes, his usually pristine lab coat wrinkled from running across the Pentagon. He was a small man with intense dark eyes that seemed to hold secrets too large for his modest frame. As the doors sealed and the electromagnetic shielding activated, Nakamura set his tablet on the table and looked directly at the president. "It's time to discuss Project Nightfall," he said simply. For the past 15 years, while the world focused on terrestrial conflicts and economic concerns, a small group of visionaries had been preparing for this exact moment. Project Nightfall began as a theoretical exercise. What would humanity do if faced with an alien invasion? The answer had required the combined efforts of the brightest minds from NASA, DARPA, and intelligence agencies around the world. "Show them," Rodriguez instructed. Nakamura activated his tablet, and the room's holographic display came to life. Instead of the familiar blue marble of Earth, the solar system appeared as the aliens had never seen it. Hidden throughout the asteroid belt, disguised as natural space debris, were humanity's true guardians. Thousands of automated defense platforms, each armed with weapons that borrowed principles from both human ingenuity and carefully reverse-engineered alien technology. The Zephyrians think they're facing a species that has barely left its home planet, Nakamura explained, his voice growing stronger with each word. They've observed our public space program, our commercial satellites, our obviously primitive rocket technology. What they haven't seen is what we've been building in secret. The display zoomed deeper into the asteroid belt, revealing construction facilities that had been operating for over a decade. Massive ships, sleek and predatory in design, floated in hidden docks carved from the hearts of asteroids. These weren't the bulky, chemical-fueled vehicles the world knew about. These were hunters built for war among the stars. Admiral Thompson studied the tactical display with the eye of a strategist who had spent his entire career preparing for impossible odds. How many ships do we have operational? 47, Nakamura replied. Each one crewed by volunteers who have trained their entire adult lives for this mission. They'd been living in the belt for 3 years, maintaining complete radio silence, waiting for this day. Rodriguez felt something she hadn't experienced since the crisis began. Hope. What about weapons capabilities? Our quantum torpedo technology is based on principles the Zephyrians haven't discovered yet, Nakamura continued. Their ships are designed to withstand conventional energy weapons and kinetic impacts. They're not prepared for weapons that can phase shift through their shields and detonate inside their hulls. The next 48 hours were a carefully orchestrated performance. Earth's governments appeared to panic exactly as the Zephyrians expected. Emergency broadcasts showed world leaders calling for calm, while military forces visibly scrambled to prepare defenses that everyone knew would be useless. Desperate diplomatic messages were sent toward the alien fleet, begging for more time, offering everything from Earth's natural resources to technological exchanges. The Zephyrians watched it all with the satisfaction of predators who had cornered their prey. Commander Lyrali's reports to the Empire spoke of another successful campaign, another species about to join their growing collection of conquered worlds. Their ships moved into closer positions around Earth, confident in their invincibility. What they didn't see were the subtle changes happening throughout the solar system. Deep space monitoring stations that had been tracking asteroids for decades suddenly lost sight of several large objects. Solar observation satellites reported unusual flare activity that seemed to follow patterns rather than natural stellar behavior. Most importantly, the quantum field fluctuations near Jupiter's moons suggested energy signatures that no Earth-based technology should have been able to produce. Captain Maria Santos sat in the command chair of the ESS Defiance, humanity's first true warship, and watched the Zephyrian fleet through sensors they couldn't detect. Around her, the bridge crew worked with the quiet efficiency of professionals who had trained for this moment their entire careers. Every face showed the same expression. Determination mixed with the knowledge that they were about to attempt something that had never been done before. All ships report ready status, reported Lieutenant Commander Chen from the communication station. Operation Silent Thunder is authorized to begin on your command, Captain. Santos looked at the tactical display showing the Zephyrian positions. The aliens had arranged their fleet in a standard intimidation formation, designed to look impressive from Earth's perspective, while maintaining what they believed was an unassailable position. It was exactly what humanity's strategists had hoped for. The Zephyrians have spent centuries perfecting psychological warfare, Santos said to her crew. They've conquered dozens of species without firing a shot because fear is their greatest weapon. Today, they learn what happens when their prey refuses to be afraid. She turned to her tactical officer, a young woman whose hands were perfectly steady despite the magnitude of what they were about to attempt. Begin the countdown, Lieutenant. Time to show them what humans do when someone threatens our home. As the final seconds ticked away, deep space sensors throughout the solar system registered energy signatures that defied the Zephyrians' understanding of human technology. Hidden ships powered up weapons systems that used principles of physics the aliens had never encountered. Communication arrays that had been silent for years suddenly blazed to life, coordinating an attack pattern that would emerge from everywhere and nowhere simultaneously. The trap that humanity had spent 15 years preparing was about to spring, and the Zephyrians were about to learn that sometimes the prey had teeth of their own. The storm unleashed. The attack began at exactly 14:30 Greenwich Mean Time with a phenomenon the Zephyrians had never witnessed in 4 centuries of conquest. Space around their fleet simply exploded into light as 47 human warships materialized from positions that should have been impossible to occupy undetected. The quantum phase generators that had kept them hidden collapsed in perfect synchronization, revealing humanity's true response to the Empire's ultimatum. Commander Lorelei stood frozen on the bridge of the flagship Eternal Dominion as her sensors screamed warnings in languages her species had never heard. The impossible was happening before her ancient eyes. The primitive humans had not only built a fleet capable of interstellar combat, but they had positioned it throughout the solar system with a precision that spoke of decades of planning. Battle stations, she commanded, her silver skin darkening with stress patterns that hadn't appeared since her youth. All ships, Defensive Formation 7. How did they mask their approach? Her tactical officer, a veteran of 20 conquest campaigns, stared at his readings with confusion that bordered on terror. Commander, our sensors show no approach. They were already in position. These ships appear to have been waiting in the asteroid belt for, possibly years. The first wave of human attacks struck with surgical precision. Quantum torpedoes phased through Zephyrian shields as if they didn't exist, detonating inside hull sections with explosions that sent shockwaves through the entire fleet. The aliens had designed their defenses to withstand every known form of energy weapon, kinetic projectile, and exotic matter beam. They had never encountered weapons that could ignore the fundamental laws of physics as they understood them. Captain Santos watched from the Defiance as 3 Zephyrian cruisers lost power simultaneously, their hulls cracked open like eggs to spill atmosphere and debris into the void. Target their communication arrays next, she ordered. Cut them off from each other before they can coordinate a response. The human fleet moved like a pack of wolves, each ship playing its role in a battle plan that had been refined through thousands of simulations. They struck fast and hard, then vanished back into the asteroid field before the Zephyrians could return fire. When the aliens turned their massive weapons toward the last known position of their attackers, they found only empty space and floating rocks. Admiral Thompson watched the battle unfold from the command center buried beneath the Pentagon, his weathered face showing the satisfaction of a strategist whose plans were unfolding perfectly. Around him, technicians monitored feeds from every human ship, coordinating an attack pattern that spanned millions of cubic kilometers of space. Phase 2, he announced. Time to show them what psychological warfare really looks like. Throughout the solar system, hidden transmitters began broadcasting on frequencies the Zephyrians used for internal communication. But instead of the orderly tactical chatter they expected, their channels filled with something they had never experienced. Human voices speaking in calm, confident tones about tactics, strategies, and weapon capabilities that shouldn't have existed. Zephyrian vessel, this is Captain Rodriguez of the Earth Defense Force, came one transmission. Your shields are down to 60% efficiency. Recommend immediate withdrawal to prevent further casualties. Unknown Zephyrian commander, added another voice. Your tactical formation is vulnerable to quantum phase weapons. Suggest you review your positioning before we continue our attack. The psychological impact was devastating. For centuries, the Zephyrians had conquered through fear and intimidation, always speaking from a position of absolute superiority. Now they found themselves receiving tactical advice from the very species they had come to subjugate, offered in the same calm tones they used when accepting surrender. Commander Lorelei felt something she had never experienced in 400 years of military service. Uncertainty. The humans weren't behaving like any species she had encountered. They weren't begging for mercy or desperately fighting against impossible odds. They were conducting their defense with the clinical precision of professionals who had prepared for this exact scenario. "Status report," she demanded, her voice carrying stress harmonics that made her crew visibly uncomfortable. 17 ships with critical damage, her second-in-command reported. 43 ships with moderate to severe system failures. "Commander, their weapons are unlike anything in our databases. They're not just penetrating our shields, they're ignoring them entirely." The human fleet struck again, this time targeting the Zephyrian flagship directly. The Eternal Dominion shuddered as quantum torpedoes materialized inside its hull, detonating in precise patterns that disabled weapon systems without destroying the ship entirely. It was a message written in explosions. The humans could have destroyed them completely, but chose restraint. Dr. Nakamura monitored the battle from his laboratory, watching as decades of theoretical physics became brutal reality. The quantum phase weapons were his greatest creation, based on principles that most human scientists still considered impossible. The mathematics alone had required the development of entirely new forms of calculus, and the engineering challenges had pushed human technology beyond anything previously imagined. "All targets neutralized in the primary engagement zone," reported Captain Santos over the secure channel. "Beginning Phase 3 operations." Phase 3 was the masterstroke that would define humanity's place in the galaxy. Instead of pressing their attack to total victory, the human fleet began broadcasting on all frequencies, speaking directly to the Zephyrian crews in their own language. "Attention Zephyrian forces," came the voice of Admiral Thompson, translated into perfect Zephyrian through technology that shouldn't have existed. "We do not wish to destroy your ships or harm your crews. We seek only to protect our home and our people. Stand down your weapons, and we will allow you to withdraw with honor." The offer sent shockwaves through the Zephyrian fleet. In 4 centuries of conquest, no species had ever offered them terms after gaining military superiority. The concept of mercy from a position of strength was so foreign to their culture that many crew members initially believed it was some form of elaborate trap. Commander Lorelei stood on the bridge of her crippled flagship, surrounded by sparking consoles and the acrid smell of damaged systems. Her tactical displays showed the true scope of humanity's capabilities. Hidden bases throughout the solar system, weapon platforms that could appear and disappear at will, and technology that operated on principles her science couldn't explain. "They were never primitive," she whispered, the realization hitting her like a physical blow. They'd been preparing for this for decades. The truth was even more startling than she imagined. Humanity had spent 15 years building a defense network specifically designed to counter the Zephyrian method of conquest. Every psychological tactic, every technological advantage, every strategic approach the Empire used had been studied, analyzed, and countered. President Rodriguez appeared on screens throughout the Zephyrian fleet, her image broadcast through communication systems the aliens couldn't block or trace. When she spoke, her words carried the authority of a species that had just proven itself capable of standing among the stars. "Commander Lorelei," Rodriguez began, using the alien's name and rank with casual precision that demonstrated humanity's intelligence capabilities. "Your empire has conquered 47 star systems through fear and intimidation. Today, you've learned that some species cannot be intimidated. We offer you safe passage from our solar system and a message to carry back to your empire." The message was simple but profound. Earth was no longer a primitive world waiting to be conquered. Humanity had emerged as a technological power capable of defending itself and its interests. Any future contact would be conducted between equals, not between conqueror and conquered. The Zephyrian withdrawal began 3 hours later. Their damaged ships limped away from Earth's solar system, carrying news that would reshape the Empire's understanding of the galaxy. For the first time in their history, they had encountered a species that met their aggression with superior preparation and their fear tactics with unshakable determination. Captain Santos stood on the bridge of the Defiance, watching the alien fleet disappear into the dark between stars. Around her, the crew maintained their professional composure, but she could see the pride in their eyes. They had done something that would be remembered as long as humanity reached toward the stars. All ships, return to base, she ordered. Mission accomplished. But the mission was about more than just defending Earth. In a single engagement, humanity had announced its presence as a major power in the galaxy. The secret fleets would no longer need to hide in asteroid belts. The hidden bases could reveal themselves to the world. And the message would spread throughout the Empire and beyond. There was a new player in the cosmic game, and they played by their own rules. Dr. Nakamura received confirmation that the quantum phase technology had performed beyond even his most optimistic projections. The weapons that had seemed impossible just years before had proven capable of neutralizing threats that conventional physics couldn't touch. Humanity's grasp of the universe had grown beyond anything their enemies had imagined possible. In the weeks that followed, Earth's hidden capabilities were gradually revealed to its own population. The secret fleets became the foundation of humanity's first true space navy. The asteroid belt installations became the core of an expanding network of defenses and research facilities, and the message sent to the Zephyrian Empire spread throughout the galaxy like ripples from a stone dropped in still water. Other species, some of whom had surrendered to the Zephyrians years or decades earlier, began to ask questions about the humans who had done the impossible. If one species could stand against the Empire and win, perhaps others could as well. The seeds of resistance that had been planted by Earth's victory began to grow in star systems throughout the galaxy. Commander Lyrali's report to the Zephyrian High Command was brief and devastating. Humanity was not a primitive species to be conquered, but a dangerous rival to be respected. The Empire's expansion had encountered its first real obstacle, and the implications would echo through their civilization for generations to come. The war that everyone expected never materialized. Instead, a new era of galactic politics began, with humanity as an active participant rather than a potential victim. The species that had spent 15 years preparing for invasion found themselves building embassies instead of weapons, negotiating treaties instead of battle plans. But the lesson remained clear to anyone who might threaten Earth in the future. Humanity had proven that some prey had teeth, and those teeth were sharper than anyone had imagined. The giants of the galaxy had learned to respect the small blue planet, and the silence that followed spoke louder than any threat ever could.